She laughed for 13 seconds. I know because I counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, all the way to 13. It was one of those too loud laughs. The kind where her head tilted back just a little too far, and she touched his shoulder like they'd shared something intimate. Like they'd done this before. I was standing 3 feet away. I had just handed her a glass of wine. She didn't even glance at me. Just reached back without looking, like I was a butler at a wedding she didn't want to admit she invited. And the guy? Tall, cuffed sleeves, watch that screamed, I invest aggressively. He wasn't even funny. He said something about marketing metrics. And she laughed like he'd reinvented humor. I hadn't made her laugh like that in months. Maybe longer. I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe I thought she'd loop me in. Pull me closer. Say, this is my husband, like she used to. But no. She leaned in closer to him. Her eyes sparkled the way they used to when she looked at me. Back when I was still something more than familiar background noise. The room was crowded. Warm. Perfumed with money and fake charm. People smiled too much. I felt like a mistake in khakis. I tried one last time. Tapped her elbow gently and said, hey, I'm just gonna. She didn't even turn. Just a quick, sharp whisper through her teeth. Not now. 2 words. Flat. Final. I nodded like an idiot. Walked out with a fake smile. Past a guy complimenting the lighting and a woman laughing too hard at nothing. I didn't look back until I was in the car. I sat in silence. No music. Just the sound of my own breathing and the city doing what cities do. I didn't cry, but I thought about it. Then at 11:42 p.m., my phone buzzed. Her name. 1 message. 1 word. Come. And I swear, my first thought was, does he know she texted me that? When she texted come, I didn't reply. I stared at the word like it was some ancient riddle I had to solve before my heart stopped aching. I didn't even know what she meant. Come where? Come back to the party? Come back to being her invisible sidekick? Come be the obedient little husband who pretends he didn't watch her flirt with a stranger while he stood there like a damn coat rack? I didn't ask. I didn't write back. I just opened the app that shows her location, the one she made me download last year after she got paranoid about crime in her neighborhood. Just in case something ever happens to me, she said. What a joke. Her dad was still at the venue. I watched it move once, slowly, like she was walking down the hallway or toward the bar again. Maybe him. Maybe a restroom. Maybe nowhere. I had no idea. And yet I couldn't stop staring. I sat there for 20 minutes with that stupid dot glowing on my screen. Not moving. Not blinking. Just waiting. I started imagining things. That maybe she texted the wrong person. That maybe come was meant for him. Or worse, that she sent it on purpose, knowing I'd see it and come crawling back. Like she wanted to test how far I'd go before I cracked. That word, that single word, it didn't feel like an invitation. It felt like a command. A leash. I didn't go back. Instead, I drove. Not home. Not anywhere I had a plan to go. I just started following the city lights, making random turns like I could outrun the feeling in my chest. I ended up parked near the lake. Same spot we went to when we first moved here. Back when we used to sit on the hood of the car and share fries and talk about impossible dreams, the kind you don't tell your parents because they'll laugh. Now it was just me. My cold hands. My phone glowing with that one message. And then the dot moved. At first I thought it was a glitch. But then it kept moving. Down the block. Across the street. To a place I recognized. A hotel. Not some fancy 5-star rooftop spot. No, this was one of those corporate stay hotels with elevators that smell like lemon cleaner and broken dreams. Her location stopped on the 12th floor. I stared at the screen like it owed me an explanation. She hadn't said another word. No follow-up text. No call. Just that one cold command. So I finally responded. Not with anger. Not with questions. Just one sentence. Alone or not. And then I waited, heart pounding, knowing that whatever answer came next would either kill me or set something darker in motion. I waited 7 minutes for her to answer. 7 minutes where every possible nightmare played out in my head, each one worse than the last. I pictured her standing in that generic hallway, outside some hotel room door, phone in one hand, his cologne on her skin. Maybe she was debating if she should lie. Maybe she was staring him in the face as she typed her answer. Or maybe, and this one burned the worst, maybe she was laughing with him about it. Maybe she showed him my text and said, "Look how jealous he gets." When the message finally came in, it said, "Alone." That's all. No explanation. No apology. No warmth. Just that. I didn't believe her. I don't even know if I wanted to believe her. But I needed the truth. And I didn't trust her enough to get it through a screen. So I drove. The hotel wasn't far, maybe 15 minutes through late-night traffic, but it felt like an hour. Every red light felt like punishment. Every turn brought another surge of dread. I told myself I was just going to talk, that I wasn't going to scream or beg or break down. I told myself I was just going to look her in the eye and see what kind of woman could do this to someone who loved her so quietly for so long. I parked across the street and stared up at the building. 12th floor. One of the windows had the lights on. I imagined her up there, sitting on the edge of the bed, waiting like nothing had happened. Like I was the one who ruined the night by walking out. Like I was the one who owed her something. The lobby was cold and sterile. Some kid behind the counter nodded at me like I didn't even register as a human being. I rode the elevator up in silence, staring at my own reflection in the silver doors. My shirt was wrinkled. My face looked pale. I didn't look like a man. I looked like a memory. When I reached her floor, I almost turned around. My hand hovered over my phone. I thought about texting her again, asking one more time, "Are you really alone?" But then I saw it. The door at the end of the hall, slightly ajar. Just barely. I walked toward it slowly, my breath loud in my ears. Every step felt heavier. I didn't knock. I didn't call out. I just pushed the door open the rest of the way. And what I saw made my whole body go cold. She was sitting on the bed, barefoot, still in that same dress from the party. Her heels were kicked off to the side. Her makeup was smeared like she'd wiped her eyes too hard. She looked up when I entered, but not with surprise. No, she looked at me like I was late, like I was expected. But there was something else too. Something just behind her eyes. Something guarded. And that's when I heard it. The faintest click, like a closet door slowly closing behind me. I froze. You know that feeling when the air suddenly feels heavier? Like the room itself knows something you don't? That's what hit me the second I heard that soft, almost imperceptible click. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle. Too subtle. Like someone was trying not to be heard. And Junie, she didn't flinch. She didn't ask what I was doing there. She didn't say, "Come sit," or "I'm sorry." She just stared. Her hands were in her lap, knotted together like she was holding something in, or bracing for something to explode. I didn't say a word. My eyes drifted past her, toward the far side of the room, where the closet door sat just slightly off its frame. I couldn't see anything behind it, but I could feel it. That sick, slow, crawling dread rising in my throat. And then came the second sound, not a click this time. A breath. One breath. Too loud for silence, too soft for confidence. It was like someone exhaled after holding it too long. Someone who didn't expect me to come this far. I looked back at Junie, and I swear to God, there was something in her face. Not fear, not guilt, but calculation. Like she was watching my every blink, waiting to see if I'd do something irrational. If I'd open the door. She whispered one word. "Don't." That was it. Not "let me explain." Not "I can't." Not even "it's not what you think." Just "don't." Like I was a child about to touch something sharp. Like I couldn't handle the truth behind that door. But I wasn't going to leave again. Not this time. Not after that party. Not after the text. Not after the look she gave that man. Not after 13 seconds of laughter. So I walked forward. Each step felt like betrayal in reverse. Like I was undoing every moment we ever had just by moving toward that cheap hotel closet. Junie didn't move. She didn't shout. She didn't stop me. And that was all the confirmation I needed. I reached the handle. My hand trembled as I gripped it. It was warm. Not from the room. From someone having just touched it. Someone inside. Hiding. Breathing. Listening. I opened the door. Slowly. Carefully. And what I saw inside wasn't what I expected. It wasn't him. It was worse. There was no man in the closet. No shoes. No jacket. No panicked breathing crouched in the dark. Instead, sitting right there on the shelf inside, was her phone, not just powered on, but recording. Front camera facing outward, the red timer counting up in the corner of the screen. A full hour and 16 minutes. My face was suddenly reflected back at me on the screen, wide-eyed, shaking. I reached in and picked it up, my hand barely steady. I looked back at her, still seated on the bed, unmoved, expression unreadable. My voice cracked when I asked, "What the hell is this?" She blinked slowly. Then, finally, she spoke, calm, way too calm. I wanted to remember how this night went, in case it came up later. Came up later? My voice was climbing now. I felt heat rush up the back of my neck. What are you even talking about? You've been filming me? While hiding your phone in the closet. Her reply wasn't instant. She stood up slowly, smoothing out her dress like she was preparing for a stage cue. She walked toward me, not in fear, not in shame, but with a sort of eerie patience that made my skin crawl. Then she said something I'll never forget, something that still rings in my head even now. Because if I didn't, you'd twist it all. I laughed. I actually laughed, but it was bitter, shaky, the kind of laugh that comes out when you're 2 inches from screaming. Twist what? That I came here because you told me to? That I followed you to a hotel after you ignored me all night and humiliated me in front of a room full of strangers? She looked at me like I was boring her. You're paranoid, Albert. You've always been paranoid. You take everything the wrong way. That's why I needed proof. Proof of what? I asked again louder. That I walked into a room and opened a door? That I didn't lose my mind when I had every reason to? She sighed. You were going to accuse me anyway. Might as well have you on camera, doing it. That's when I finally realized it. This wasn't about love anymore. This wasn't about mistakes or even betrayal. This was strategy. Control. It had been for a while. I just hadn't seen it until now. I thought I was a ghost in her world. Turns out, I was just a character in a story she was already editing. I wanted to throw the phone. I wanted to scream, shatter the mirror, do something that would make her see what she was doing to me. But I didn't. Instead, I did something worse. I took the phone, walked out, and never said another word. She didn't follow me. Not yet. But she would. Because the moment I left, she finally realized I wasn't just humiliated anymore. I was done pretending. The second I stepped into the hallway, her phone still clutched in my hand, everything inside me shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. It was colder than that. Like I'd crossed some emotional event horizon and couldn't feel things the same way anymore. It wasn't that I didn't care. It was that I cared differently. Sharper. Smarter. She wanted to trap me with that video. She wanted a record in case she ever needed to play the victim, to turn this entire thing around and claim I had been unstable, paranoid, unhinged. That's why she texted come. Not to fix things. Not because she regretted anything. She wanted a performance. Mine. And I gave her one. So no, I didn't go home. I drove to a neighborhood I'd only visited once before. Gated. Lavish. The kind of place where every driveway had cars worth more than my annual salary. And I knew where to go, because I remembered his name from the party. The man she laughed with. The one with the silver watch and the perfect timing. His name was Terrence. Her boss. She had whispered it while brushing lint off his sleeve, as if she were smoothing down something she already owned. I remembered his full name because he gave me a firm handshake that night, pretending not to look through me, pretending to care that I existed. And his business card was still in her coat pocket, the one I grabbed from the car last week to take to the dry cleaner. Sometimes, fate hands you the sharpest knives in the softest moments. I parked 2 houses down and walked up to the door. No plan. No idea what I was going to say. But I needed to know. Needed to see what her face wouldn't show me. I rang the bell once. The porch light clicked on, and a moment later, the door opened. It wasn't Terrence. It was his wife. Her hair was pulled back. She was barefoot, holding a glass of wine and looking tired in a real way. Not the fake exhausted look Junie wore when she wanted sympathy. She blinked at me. Can I help you? I should have left. Instead, I said, I'm sorry to show up like this. My name's Albert. I think your husband and my wife are. Before I could even finish the sentence, her face changed. Not confusion. Recognition. Like a puzzle piece she'd been trying to place, just locked into place. She didn't ask me to explain. She didn't ask me for proof. She stepped back and said, come in. And in that moment, I realized something horrifying and undeniable. I wasn't the first one to show up like this. The door closed behind me with a soft thud, and for a second, all I could hear was the hum of a dishwasher somewhere deeper in the house. Terrence's wife, her name was Margot, I learned quickly, didn't waste time on small talk. She handed me a coaster, set her wine down, and walked straight to a drawer near the fireplace like she already knew what to do. Like this wasn't new for her. She didn't ask how I found her. She didn't ask who I was. She just opened that drawer, pulled out a plain manila folder, and placed it on the coffee table between us like a loaded weapon. I didn't touch it at first. I stared at it the way you'd stare at a ticking clock strapped to a box you weren't sure was real. She sat down across from me, crossed her legs, and said, "He lies better when he's tired." So I started looking through things at night. I opened the folder. Inside were photos. Dozens. Some printed from security cameras, grainy, black and white, time-stamped with nights I thought Junie was working late. Some looked like they were taken through a windshield. Terrence and Junie stepping out of restaurants, walking into buildings, laughing. Always close, always unaware. But the worst part wasn't what they showed. It was that one of them, one I hadn't seen before, was a picture of me, sitting alone in my car, looking down at my phone, outside the party. I blinked at it, my mouth dry. I didn't take this. I know, Margot said softly. I did. I looked up at her. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just nodded slowly and added, "I saw your car the night of the party. You look like someone who already knew. I figured you'd come back. And you did." There was no revenge in her voice. No fire. Just quiet exhaustion. "We don't have to scream about it," she continued. "I stopped doing that months ago. What I want now is information. And peace. But mostly, I want them to stop thinking we're stupid." I sat there, gripping the edge of the table, heart pounding in this surreal silence between two strangers bound by betrayal. And then she leaned forward and said the one thing that finally made the numbness crack. "She's been at that hotel before, Elbert. Room 1212. 4 times in the last month. Same room. Same name on the guest list. But never under hers." I didn't ask whose. I already knew. I sat back, trying to process the weight of it all, when Margot added, "If you're ready to do something about it, I already have a plan." And just like that, everything I thought I came for was replaced by something I didn't expect to feel again. Control. Margot's plan wasn't dramatic. It wasn't about revenge in the way people fantasize. No screaming, no hotel confrontations, no social media chaos. It was precise, quiet, and surgical. The kind of plan you make when you've had months to sit with betrayal, long after the fire goes out, and only clarity remains. We spent the next 2 days gathering everything. Emails, hotel bookings, call logs, and one very important video, the one Junie tried to use to paint me as unstable. I had her own footage now, her own setup, her own trap, and instead of being the villain in her twisted little narrative, I had the entire thing flipped on its head. Margot helped me compile it all. She wasn't just angry, she was brilliant. And then we waited. We chose a Thursday. Junie had already told me she was working late again. I said nothing, just kissed her on the cheek that morning and left the house like normal. But instead of going to work, I checked into a quiet Airbnb near the outskirts of town and set one simple thing in motion. I left her a box. Not a dramatic letter. No long explanations. Just a small black box on the dining room table with her name on it. Inside was a USB drive with everything. The footage, the evidence, screenshots of texts she thought she deleted. But more than that, it had something she didn't expect. A photo of me and Margot, sitting across from one another, holding up our wedding rings like they were relics of a life neither of us wanted to keep wearing. And beside that, a key to our house, the one I had already vacated. Closets empty, drawers cleared, bank accounts divided, papers filed. She wouldn't even need to ask how I did it so fast. She'd know. She underestimated me for so long. She forgot quiet doesn't mean weak. I didn't wait for her reaction. I didn't need to, because I had already stepped into a new space. Margot and I kept in touch, but only as allies, not partners. We weren't rushing into anything, just moving forward with our own lives, finally free of the lies that used to tie us down. A few weeks later, I moved into a small place near the lake. Nothing fancy, just enough. I bought a used couch, started painting again, and even picked up my guitar for the first time in years. One evening, as the sun dropped behind the water, I got a text from an unknown number. No name, no words, just a photo. It was a mirror, cracked, lying in a hotel room, and beneath it, a silver watch. I turned off my phone, smiled, and went back to playing. Because for once, I wasn't living inside someone else's story. I had finally started writing my own.